Woohoo! And here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending upon your time zone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ivan Painter. I'm going to be your host today. I'm the National Cybersecurity Specialist for Intelisys. I'm quite honored to be here for this Supplier Illumination. We have quite an illustrious panel today. Just to let you know, we have some other wonderful things going on this afternoon. We have a session for remote work at home at 2 o'clock today, I believe Eastern time. And when you receive the email for the survey, you'll have a link so you can sign up with that. That's about approximately 10 to 15 minutes, maybe as much as an hour after this one. And then tomorrow we have, let's see, Flex Central and Tier Point with Mr. Nick Tempesta. And then on Friday, we have Genesis and Talk Desk with my buddy, they're all my buddies, Mr. Michael D. So I'm looking forward to that. Michael Del Signore, the other side of Thunder and Lightning. But today we have a Tier Point. I'm sorry, Tier Point. Today we have TPx and Verizon. And Verizon's kind of somewhat near and dear to my heart. I've done about maybe 18, 19 years there. So, but good times. We're going to start off today with TPx, and we're going to be speaking about SD WAN and security. So we have Nick is going to kick us off with SD WAN and Eric, and then we're going to come back for security with Eric, and then we've got Joseph here for Verizon. Please remember we have plenty of questions, so or please ask plenty of questions. And you put those in the box, and as time comes, I'll be answering that. How are you gentlemen doing? Everybody doing well in our new work remote type status?
Doing
very
well.
Fantastic. So let's talk about TPx a little bit. Nick, tell me what's going on, and what are you guys seeing right now as far as COVID?
Yeah, first of all, I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe out there. These are trying times for us all, right? I believe we're at about 99% of our entire business is working from home. So we get it. It's tough out there. So, our approach right now is to, try and leverage our current services, things like SD WAN, to help our customers, be able to continue their business at home. As many of you know, you move your phone service, you get some UCaaS from the office, you move it to your home, and you start running into a lot of problems, right? We have solutions there to help you, maintain that quality so that you have the same experience that you do in the office. So, sorry, go ahead, Eric. You want to say something?
No, basically,
right,
we've seen a lot of activity, not only with SD-WAN, but with our UCaaS and our managed firewall offering, helping existing customers take advantage of VPN to get those home users access to that. And then, of course, the phones was a big thing. Like my wife, for example, she had a cell phone, right? But nobody knew her cell phone number. And so I kind of gave her grief. It's like, well, if you had our service, people would just be calling your work desk and you'd be picking it up from your cell phone. So definitely seeing a lot of activity helping existing customers. And one of the things that we're talking to potential new customers is the fact that some of these solutions, while there is an immediate need for it, it really is a long-term solution. I mean, let's face it, 10 years ago, work from home was kind of a luxury, maybe granted to only a few people. But nowadays, I work from home all the time. I'm a work from home employee. I've been that way for the past 10 years. So it was nothing new for me. But again, we're trying to tell customers that, look, this isn't like you buy it now and in 6 months from now, you wasted money. You're not going to need it anymore. This is definitely a long-term strategy. So.
Right. And I think this is going to be a lot more common going forward for all of us. We're figuring out we can do it, right? So if we have to work from home, we can.
Yeah.
And these technologies are really helping us get through this hurdle. From everywhere, like I mentioned, voice to, just poor quality circuits. Residential circuits are known to be bad, right? We have enhancements within SD WAN that can help correct that can still prioritize your business critical traffic, any critical traffic that you have, even across poor quality circuits. Those are kind of the benefits of services like SD WAN in these trying times.
Excellent, excellent. So I want to keep everybody in mind that I'm not getting any audio. Well, okay, Joe. Need to work on that. Somebody's not getting audio. I think everybody else is. So tell us a little bit more about TPx and where you guys fit in. And I know that my predominant focus with your organization is security, and I know that's one of Eric's specialties. But you also have a wide range of services as well. Can we go into that just a little bit deeper?
Sure. You want to take that?
You want me to do it?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go for it, Eric.
Sure. So we're a nationwide company doing managed services, but we also have our connectivity line. We can do over-the-top circuits. We can do HSIA circuits. We have our own circuits as well, and core network that we build upon. That's one thing that makes us different from some other MSPs out there, is the fact that we have built up from a carrier network, and we built some of that. Nick, why don't you talk about our gateways and how we do things a little bit differently with some of our gateways on our network versus.
Right, and if I could take a step back too, with our SD WAN solution, it's not so much we want to push any one vendor with you, right? We want to look at the needs of the business. We have 4 SD WAN vendors that we partner with.
Okay.
And then we take that information and then we help the customer choose the right vendor for them. Not all SD WAN is created equal, right? Some have their verticals that they're strong in and others are not. What Eric is mentioning is, one of the strengths for one of our SD WAN vendors is they leverage an SD WAN gateway, which allows traffic that's egressing your SD WAN environment out to the internet to be prioritized across the tunnel. So if you have that requirement, we have the full infrastructure to support it across 8 POPs across the United States, all strategically placed. So you're not going to be dealing with a lot of latency to get back to your gateway. You're going to have a seamless experience and an improved and very beneficial service to you or your business.
Great. And then, with SD-WAN, the other thing that we do besides our connectivity line of business is our UCaaS line of business, our voice support. That's a big thing for us in our UCX product. I don't have it turned on right now, but on my cell phone, I could have basically all of the phone. At home, I work from home anyways, but employees that maybe were in an office and need to maybe go get lunch or step out, they basically click a couple buttons on the phone, and guess what? The phone's transferred immediately, seamlessly to their cell phone, and they continue on the way. And this, of course, works great when we're talking about work from home, screen sharing, chat, all these great tools that, even us as a business didn't have that many years ago.
Sure.
Now, I couldn't imagine, what about you, Nick, working without those tools anymore?
It would be tough right now.
The collaboration tools are an absolute must. I want to turn it just a little bit because, this team, my team, is so talented in so many different directions, but as you guys know, my focus is cybersecurity. So Eric, I'm just going to slide over to you a little bit. Let's talk about some of TPx's offerings when it comes to security and what you guys are doing currently with COVID and what you do on a regular basis.
Sure. So we have a managed firewall offering. Our main service is a Fortinet offering. And we've seen, like I said before, a lot of activity with that for our existing customers wanting to take advantage of the VPN. Some users and some customers had already taken advantage of that, and they're calling in to add a lot more users. Some customers want to add on two-factor authentication as well, which is very, very important. When we talk about security, Ivan, we all know it's all about layering. There's not one silver bullet, and that's something that we really want to talk with customers about. Is it's not buy this and you're good. It's buy this and layer on and layer on and layer on. And some of that layering, of course, is stuff that we have no control over, right? Strong passwords. Obviously, that's probably the biggest one, but that's where two-factor comes in. So even if credentials are stolen, two-factor definitely helps protect there. So
absolutely, I so believe in multi-factor authentication. Hopefully one day the passwords will just absolutely disappear. It's ridiculous on that we're still using them. So we do have one question in. I'm going to go back to the other side of the house. Joe, hang in there because we're going to get to you eventually. Harold would like to know, who are the 4 SD WAN vendors that you use?
Sure, yeah. We use VeloCloud, we use Silver Peak, we use Meraki, and Fortinet now has an SD WAN. So there's, Eric is a big fan of theirs as well too. So we have, we've had a lot of great success with all 4, and we feel that each one has their strengths, right? So that's when I go back to my comment of, we don't ever push a SD WAN vendor on any customer. We look at the use case, and then from there we'll help them decide.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, and with Meraki, that was recently launched under our MSX Networks offering.
Okay.
In February. So that was a relatively new launch, and that really was driven by the customer demand. Some customers wanted a more cost-effective solution. They didn't have the high requirements necessary, because like Nick said, not all SD-WAN is created the same. And for some customers, that version of SD-WAN worked very well for them. It also included the ability to layer on security as well.
Yeah.
And then with that MSX Networks line of business, we also can support switching and wireless access points as well. So that kind of can either be an office in a box. It's not really office in one box, but it's one solution and one management portal. And either we manage it at the optimum level, or the customer can choose core, where we're procuring the equipment, provisioning it, getting it installed, and kind of handing the keys over to customers.
Sure. Gotcha. Okay, I just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, please feel free to add. I don't know why my team is calling me, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. I also wanted to know, and a lot of folks, I've seen some of the other Illumination series, they ask the unobvious question is, where don't you fit in, for our clients? So want to address that one, either Eric or Nick?
Well, I can say I know our sweet spot, and our sweet spot is the SMB to mid-market. That's where we do really well.
Okay.
We do have mom and pop shops. We've got 1 and 2 site deals, and we've got enterprise deals as well too. But our sweet spot is definitely the SMB to mid-market, and that's where we excel at.
Yeah, and where we really thrive is not only in that market, but customers that are really looking to consolidate all these services with one vendor. That's definitely where we see a lot of wins and do very well. Hey, you want bandwidth, you want an SD-WAN, you want a security solution, you want us to help protect your endpoints and do your Wi-Fi, and you don't want to have to go to 5, 6 different vendors to do it all. That's definitely where we come in and say, hey, we can do all this. You have one bill, you can see everything. And more importantly than the one bill is really that one number that customers know that they can call. If they have a problem, they may not be technical and may not understand even where the problem is yet. All they know is there's something wrong, and I just want to be able to call somebody and
get it fixed. Yeah, absolutely.
And if I can add one more thing onto that too, to add on to what Eric said, we have customers too that don't even want to deal with their existing circuits. They've got them out there. They want SD-WAN, but they just want us to take care of everything. So we do also offer a service called third-party vendor support, which means if you sign up for an SD-WAN and you say, hey, I just want you to call the Lex and deal with that headache. So if there's a problem, I'm going to sign this LOA for you. You call them, you deal with that headache. We're a service provider, at heart, right? We start off as a carrier. We know circuits very well. This is easy for us. It's a no-brainer. We're happy to take that burden off the customer and make those calls for you.
Gotcha. So, but before we switch over to Verizon, Nick, let me ask you one quick question. I think it's a really good one. Ralph Lewis asked, what is involved with bringing on so many remote clients as we are doing right now? What does that process look like, and is it relatively easy for you guys to do at this time?
Well, I'll let you talk to the Fortinet. For the SD-WAN, that's one of the beauties of SD-WAN. We have offerings that can work in a single location, and then some that do require multi-location too, right? One of our vendors that I mentioned, VeloCloud, if it's a single, home site, and the customer doesn't need to integrate with their entire existing network, there's a solution there where we can send a box. You'll get that QoS outbound to the internet, so all your voice will work properly, all your cloud-based SaaS applications will be prioritized. And it's a very easy integration into something like that.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, I want to ask you to hang out for a little while. We're going to have more questions coming in. Joe, how are you doing this morning or this afternoon? You doing all right?
All good.
Fantastic. So tell us about this little company that you work for. I've actually spent some time there. I think I did about 18 years collectively at Verizon as well, maybe a little bit more. But please elaborate and let's go into what your organization does, what you do in particular for Verizon.
Okay, so Verizon offers, 4 different major vendors, but the product that's the favorite is Versa at this point, and there's a couple reasons around that. What are the main hits or issues or challenges or needs on the client basis for an SD WAN deployment? Most companies are international. Verizon is international, has field offices and data centers all over the world, and has the circuits to connect either MPLS or internet or LTE. And really, what is the driving path for this new technology? That being, we want to not use the more expensive MPLS paths, or be able to load share in a primary and secondary or tertiary manner with LTE backup type of scenarios. And that's really where this product plays the best. But the other thing is that when you look at branches or you look at hubs, to accomplish goals that SD WAN technology gives, what are those? Security, SD WAN technology itself, advanced routing, next-gen firewall capabilities, IDS, IPS, denial of service, and those types of things. Most CIOs are sick of having to have 4 different major vendors per branch, or essentially have to provide those services. Realistically, the Versa box provides that in one unit and giving you the ability to scale from one license to the other, to go with a next-gen firewall with advanced routing, and then move toward UTM type of technology. And that's an important growth period, our ability. But what do we hear from C-level and director-level people? Single pane of glass. I don't want to have to manage 4 vendors.
Sure.
I want to take. Sorry.
I was agreeing with you. Yes, you're correct.
I mean, that's the big advantage. And then when you add HA, the ability to QoS and regulate how an application operates over one link versus the other, and have responses to be able to measure through IPSLAs how a path integrity is based. In other words, my voice can't tolerate more than 200 milliseconds. And what you see in these types of products, this technology, is that ability to measure that with IPSLA measurements and then make intelligent decisions. That's the reason behind the technology and why I think Versa plays the best. Verizon offers Viptela and VeloCloud and even Silver Peak, and each one has their advantages. But to me, the Versa product is probably the best. The other things that come up to, I did a 2-year stint at GSA, and we attempted to do a Viptela deployment early on. And one of the challenges for enterprises, or one of the biggest issues, is we're looking at new technology. New technology takes expertise, not just in the design phase, but also in the deployment and the management of.
Gotcha.
And that's really the key piece, is how you want experienced personnel, from a design engineer to an implementation engineer to a field office tech going on, putting a CPE in, a Versa box or whatever it be, and having it, come up to speed very quickly with the phone home technology that VPNs or SD-WAN leverages.
Yeah. So let me ask this, Joe, and it's one of the questions that came out, and they also want you to address the same thing as far as implementation goes during this time, and how easy that is. It's a lot of us have done that or are currently in doing this. But are there any particular, do you offer diagrams for this? And I want to remind everybody that we have a literature that you can download as well. So if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you can download the different data that our great suppliers have provided. But when it comes to it, so are there diagrams of how either Verizon or TPx has implemented SD WAN in an HA configuration. So,
absolutely. I mean, the design engineer, the SA, the sales architect, when they first engage with the client, they'll develop requirements. And one of the big things that I have tried to leverage within Verizon, because LTE communications using the cell tower is a huge need. We're even seeing let's say the small offices like you talked about with the SMB want to use LTE as a primary path, and that's becoming increasingly popular. However, with every RF type of implementation, we've all been through the Wi-Fi blues, but LTE has the same types of challenges. And one of the things that we've installed in the process of LTE use as a backup in a cold standby or a live or even a tertiary mode is to be able to, is your address sitting next to a tower? That's an important point. And then your in-building assessment phase, which is something that our wireless, LTE wireless folks on the Verizon side have architected very directly. So what we do up front in the sales process, and as we engage, how many sites do you have? Do you have sites in China? Do you have sites in EU? And do those measurements where we have the client take our assessment documentation, our best practices for LTE, or even regular deployments of HA, as you spoke of, and take these best practices and apply them across the client base. And really the biggest thing that you're going to see in the sales effort, what type of circuit do you want? What, is it MPLS or IDE or broadband? Is it a third-party communications? All this is supported by Verizon. And one of the key things about circuits and using a Verizon in an SD WAN environment is, and especially with this virus, we have had many SD WAN clients come back to us and say, I need to turn up the dial on my bandwidth because my profile of traffic changed. And guess what? Through the VEC, the Verizon Enterprise Control, Enterprise Center allows you to go into it as a client and turn up the dial seamlessly. And so then the VEC or the operations people go and they execute that change to give you the bandwidth you might need because of a changed environment.
Right. So that change can be easily done. It's a very good point. So we have another question that came in, and I want to address this to both. Do you guys use any specific UC solution?
I can take that for TPx. Our UC solution is our UCX. That's our UCaaS service here at TPx. Yes, we do use our exclusive UCaaS solution.
Gotcha. So Joe, the question was, do you use any specific UC solution?
Well, sure. We provide that either through the VCP, our virtual data centers, with a MPLS connection over to our Cisco call center type of environments. We also give a gold card type of guarantee, especially on MPLS, that segments or puts in a class of service, the voice over IP, and set the queues and the burst rate for low latency operation. The user could have an MPLS router in their data center or their head end. We've seen large deployments, 1,000-site deployments using UCaaS in that type of environment where we guaranteed the communications. And the only real issue we had was adjusting the QoS and the burst rates around that to guarantee the delivery. There's some tricks around NAT translation and some of the settings in the SD WAN, but we've come a long way with 2 to 3 years now under our belt of managing these types of issues.
Gotcha. So we have one more question for you. So what was the name of the UC solution again, Joe?
Oh, the UCaaS?
Yes.
So the gold card is just a reservation that the PE router and MPLS will honor. In other words, if you say my voice must have 5 meg, that's guaranteed end to end.
So that's what it's called. So the solution is called Gold Card?
Well, that's just the reservation process in the MPLS network. We tend to use the UCaaS a Cisco call manager solution, but I believe they also use Avaya.
Gotcha. So I see Shao has just put up a new slide for me, kind of pushing me along since she can't hold up the 10 seconds left her So I just want to remind everybody that there's a survey that's coming up after this, and please feel free to fill it out. It gives us more information as to what you guys really want to see in these particular supplier illuminations. So we can provide you additional information there. Remember that on the right-hand side of your screen, I see here we have approximately 4 downloads that you can get from both TPx and Verizon. So please feel free to download those as well. And remember, this afternoon, we have a fantastic work at home session, which will be attached to the survey that you will receive shortly. I would highly suggest that you attend that. You're going to find my buddy Jerry Davis is going to be, Gary Davis is going to be there, Tom Laguerre, and a couple of the other SEs. It's going to be a phenomenal session. And we also run these every day at approximately 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So we've got about 5 minutes left, gentlemen. Is there anything? Let's take it over to the security side of the house for a moment, because that's where I live and breathe. And this SD WAN thing is great because I know there's a lot of integration that's going on there, and I'm pulling a lot of logs down via SD WAN into the security platform, which I think is very interesting. We're seeing that migration into, it's not and security, it's a total package, or getting there slowly but surely. Have we seen any particular uptick in malfeasance or some type of malware or just bad things happening that you guys can speak to? Eric, you want to take a first shot at that?
Oh yeah, no, the hackers are definitely loving this. They've retargeted how they're doing their phishing campaigns, especially definitely marketing COVID. With the stimulus checks coming out, you're definitely going to see scams related to that, phishing. You know, whatever, click here, otherwise you're not going to get your stimulus check. And you know, we all know that the human element is the weakest factor when it comes to security, and that's where hackers target. One of the things I didn't talk about earlier is another layer of defense that we'd like to layer on. Here at TPx, we like to talk about trying to layer security on at every layer when we can. But it can't be understated the importance of proper endpoint management. Most, I believe it's 80% of breaches happen on a device when there's a known patch. So in other words, there's a solution, there's a patch for the vulnerability, but most people haven't deployed it. And that's when most breaches happen. So our managed endpoint solution makes sure these endpoints are properly patched, which is really the one of the biggest weaknesses. And then we also layer on a next-gen AV on top of that. So you know, again, that's just another, you know, a firewall and an antivirus on your endpoint at the very basic level is absolutely necessary for everybody. So
sure, I think you hit on the 3 that I like to talk about. You know, the firewall, the next gen AV, whether it's EDR or however you want to consider it, and also patching. And that, I know a lot of us, or almost all of us, are working from home. I know Nick went into the office today, but you know, we also have to consider the other machines in our environment too, within our, you know, LAN per se.
Ivan, Configure is still out there, and Configure is a Windows 95 exploit. It's still out there because people are still running Windows 95 and they haven't patched it. There's a patch for Configure, right?
Yeah.
And it's out there because there's these systems that people don't think about. Like, for example, in my old position, I had somebody, it turned out it was at a mall, and you know those advertisements, they're like billboards, right? And it turned out that device had gotten hacked and was sending out spam email, and the company didn't think of it as a computer. They thought, well, that's a billboard, but they didn't think of it that it had an operating system. It happened to be Windows, and it got compromised. So,
you know, and it happens so often with a lot of other devices. So Joe, I've got like 2 minutes left. On the security side of the house, you know, what is Verizon seeing? You guys have one of the most massive networks in the world. I used to run one of the operation centers there, monitoring the internal environment. You know, and you also produce a great documentation as well. So tell us what you're seeing on the security side of the house real quick.
Well, the challenge I'm seeing, I mean, we can talk about firewalls, and there's a whole Verizon segment that manages deploys firewalls, Fortinet, Palo Alto, all those types of attributes. But I want to concentrate on the SD WAN. What's unique about the Versa product is it's got the blue coat function, the advanced next-gen firewall functions, the IPS, IDS, all that's built into that device. But what does that bring up as a concern from a design sense? Centralized security, and I'm talking infrastructure, not necessarily endpoint, but centralized firewall or security infrastructure or distributed. What we're finding is the clients are opting with a distributed, so the branch has a DIA, we can go directly to the interface. This is especially important when you get into China, where you're not allowed to use IPsec tunnels through the internet. You were forced to use an MPLS, so we have a lot of experience with that. But the real key point is, what do you do with the patches? Enterprise, this is the challenge. Enterprises have procedures and policies around patch distribution. How do you need to close?
Well, and you're right, and they do, and I think that's very important. But not all enterprise do. So there are some environments that don't have that level. So I think it's something that's very important. Yes, and I do have to close. We have reached our limit, but I thank everybody for participating. We've had a few questions that have not been answered. There are diagrams that are available. Please download the additionals. Thank you all for joining us today. Any questions that weren't answered, send those in. We'll make sure we get them out to our fantastic panelists. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate your time. And with that, everybody else, stay safe, wash your hands, and be secure. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good stuff.